All right, tonight is Tuesday, August 29th, 7 PM. This is our kickoff meeting for the Lake Nipmuc Task Force. We're just going to jump right into the agenda for tonight, which is agenda number 1, the Lake Nipmuc Task Force introduction. The Lake Nipmuc Task Force was created by the Select Board on April 19th, 2023. This task force consists of 6 volunteer representatives from groups invested in the lake's health and well-being and to preserve it as a natural resource. The members are representatives from the Board of Health, the Parks Commission, the Highway Department, the Conservation Commission, the Select Board, and the Lake Nipmuc Association. The purpose of this task force is to meet and discuss the past, present, and future concerns of Lake Nipmuc, work collaboratively to develop future goals and recommendations relevant to the lake and to promote, preserve, and protect its critical public asset. The scope of this task force is to act as an advisory capacity only and has no delegated authority to make decisions on behalf of the Select Board. Therefore, any vote taken is one recommendation of said decisions. The task force does not have an operational role, and neither it nor its members may direct staff or volunteers in the performance of their duties. In conducting its activities associated with the purpose and scope, the task force will conduct itself according to and within the Massachusetts Open Meeting Law, inform itself of issues, opportunities, constraints, and urgent actions relating to maintenance and promotion of the task force, provide honest, considered, constructive, and impartial advice to the Select Board that will aid in the Select Board's decision-making, provide advice on strategic and other planning work to help set short and long-term direction and action, foster a culture that seeks to understand and explore diverse views of task force members so that advice to the Select Board reflects such diversity of views, and report to the Select Board periodically on its work in order to ensure accountability for its conduct. Second item on the agenda for tonight is the task force committee members' introduction. I'd like to first start off with Donna and work our way around to the right.
My name is Donna Marie Sun, and I'm part of the Lake Association meeting.
Okay. Good, right?
For me?
Yep.
I don't know my right from my left sometimes. Joyce Gilmore, I'm the Board of Health. Member.
I'm only here for today, so get it.
Jonathan Dudley, Highway Department.
Bob Sweet, Conservation.
Dan Byer, Parks Department.
All right. Third on the agenda is appoint task force committee officers, which would be the chair, vice chair, and secretary. Is there any volunteers for the chair of the committee? Any volunteers? Any nominations for the chair of the committee? Anybody?
I've never done it, so I can't.
I'll do it.
All right, we have,
I vote Jonathan Dudley to be the chair of the task force.
do I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Hi.
Hi.
Congratulations, John, you are now the
Okay.
chair.
Excellent.
How about volunteer for the vice chair of the committee? Anybody? Any vice chair?
I said I'd help him. You're just looking at me like this. Say yes. I don't know what I have to do to that, so you'll just tell me, right?
You assist.
Can I get a second for Donna to be
I
vice
second.
chair? All those in favor? Great. And last but not least, secretary. Any volunteers to be secretary of the committee?
Dan Byer to be the secretary of the committee.
Do I get a second for Dan Byer to be the secretary of the committee?
Second.
All those in favor?
Hi.
Congratulations, Dan, you have the secretary.
He's very good at that.
All right, so the fourth item on the agenda is past, present, and future health and concerns of the Lake Nipmuc. So, Mr. Chair, anything you want to start off with about what you do with the
I
lake?
do not, my understanding is a big portion of this is to give the association a way to communicate with us to express issues. So I would turn it to the 3 members that are either on the association or live around the lake and bring the concerns to us.
All right, so you want to introduce yourselves for the,
I'm Wayne Phipps, chairman of the Lake Association.
Linda Lamont. What did I say?
Vice.
Vice chairman? I'm gonna say vice president of
Vice
the Lake
There you
Association.
go. I like that.
okay,
Yeah,
I'm just a member.
No, but you're the vice president.
I know.
right.
Moving up quickly, huh?
Yes.
I think most of the concern was the lake being closed so often with the E. coli. That, you know, we were one, is it septic? Is it the geese? And how do we, this year hasn't been as bad, right, Dan? Closing?
Yeah, go over where we're, you want me to go through what we went through this year?
Can we?
Yep, so inside the folder, there is a Lake Nipmuc beach testing graph. It'll show you exactly when we tested, what the parameters came out as. For the state of Massachusetts, there is a max of 235 before the beach is closed. And as you can see from the graph, we have overreached that 7 times this season.
But they didn't all. So I think, first of all, it is worth noting, this testing is just specific to the town beach swimming area.
Right.
Really does not mean the lake is closed. It has no bearing on any private property. And quite honestly, based on the data I've seen, I would not be surprised to find these values fluctuate. We could be closed and the other side could be totally fine and vice versa, which I think is something later we should, you know, in terms of expanding testing, but yeah, so we had, I believe we had two actual closures. So there's a quirk in the law that you take the sample, and if the sample is a failure, you can take a repeat sample within 24 hours. And if that is valid, you can remain open. So you can see a lot of these are one apart, but basically every week in a row, we had a failure, then it was good, a failure, it was good. We then did have a failure around July 10th. And I can't remember if the repeat was bad or if it was over a weekend and we just said the heck with it because of the timing. And we did close for a couple days. Then we had another one on the 19th that was clean on the 20th. Then on the 24th, 25th, we had another closure, which was then back to normal on the 26th. And then very interestingly, we did not have a single sample exceed for the rest of the summer, which is fascinating to me. And I really don't know. The only thing I can think of that's different is the heat. And it's probably not quite as busy at the beach, but
Yeah.
that is very, fascinating to me.
It's pretty busy with all the kids and stuff. I mean,
Yeah, well, the camp is a constant, but
right.
usually once you get into August, we don't see like the crowds we see earlier on.
And besides, this August wasn't really
Mm.
too charming for
Mhm.
being in swimming, and it was cooler than anything.
You're already wet.
Right, but yeah, but it was cool.
And can you remind me on what, how the testing is done at the beach? Because I remember Tom Fickner.
Yeah, so the current testing, they come out, they take a single sample, basically smack dab in the middle of the swimming area, and that's it.
That's it.
In
Okay.
years past, they were taking multiple samples and mixing the water and testing that composite. That is not allowed. You have to take individual samples and then mathematically average the results. And I think there's been talk of changing how the sampling is done, and none of that has ever gone through. I think really waiting for recommendations from this group.
Mhm.
So throughout the summer, the tests were just in the one spot.
Okay.
There's no other testing that goes on at the lake.
Didn't you do some testing? Did
So we
have-
know,
did
so
we
we
get
asked
that?
for funding to purchase
Right.
equipment.
We didn't get
And
it.
I have not, the funding wasn't available until right in the beginning of the season. And at that point, if it wasn't to do with the parks and the camp, it wasn't happening. So
Oh,
we didn't do anything.
because I was under the impression that you were doing testing.
No, so Board of Health
equipment.
Board of Health had money for expanded testing. And I think, again, that was waiting for direction from this committee that never established
Right.
itself to come up with a scheme, some sort of proposal to do that testing.
Huh.
And then with the equipment, so the deal with the testing is we're using a certified laboratory, but it's expensive. It's like $40 a test and
Right.
$50 or $80 for them to just show up. So the idea was we can buy some equipment and do our own tests and take, 20 E. coli samples every day or something. And they're only, I think they're like $8 a sample. So that's something I'd like to work on. That's still something I think we should do, and enable us, because I think the more data we can collect, just the better.
Yeah, if you look on the septic mapping that I've done and
Right, yeah.
updated, the very last page is a map of Lake Nipmuc. The purple diamonds is possible lake testing locations.
Yeah, I think we had tried to find spots that were fairly accessible from a public way, so we don't have to deal with any easements or whatever. They can just pull over and walk down to the water's edge.
So we were looking at to test 6 additional areas around the lake.
You know, and I think that was just so if people have comments on that or ideas, please have at it.
I was dealing with the woman who is in Worcester at the Worcester Water Department, and she was working in Quinsigamon and doing all this stuff, and I have attended you know, at home virtually two of the meetings that they had, and they have this wonderful piece of equipment, which is a solar buoy. I want to say boy every time, but it's buoy. And they put them out in different places. And they just float along, and it was really interesting because they would be able to do, you know, testing and at certain areas. And then the other thing that they do have is they have a lake association, and they go out and do testing all around the different places too. And it was, to me, you know, something that I thought that's what we should be doing. That would be really great if we could do it, you know.
Joan Calderella was doing that for a while with Lou Gilpatrick's daughter. They were testing around the whole lake.
Right,
And the only place that comes up high is really our cove on Route 16 over near the boat
Right,
shop
yeah.
and the lake, the town beach.
right. But you wonder why the town beach?
Well, I think it was specifically that stormwater outfall,
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
which is basically collecting everything on Taft Ave.
That's
Right.
the one that's down.
But
by-
again,
No, that's,
After your house.
where the path is, the access path.
The kayak path.
yeah, that's at the beach. Ours comes off of Route 16.
Oh, okay. All right. That one down near the beach. Okay.
I
Yeah,
think that's another aspect to really, you know, like, we should try and get some samples right out of those sumps and just
Right.
see.
what's
Like,
what
you know, who
there.
knows, it might point us in a direction or might
Right.
not.
Right,
I mean, as much as I would love to just say, oh, it's septic, I think it's far more complicated than that.
Mm.
Or if it is, it's not an obvious issue.
right.
The
Is there
last,
any correlation between the closing dates and the weather? I mean, I know you probably don't have a log with this, but I think when we have heavy rain, septic systems that aren't up to code, they fill and possibly leach out. So I'm just wondering if those dates.
It's sometimes not, like, whatever, we just had all that huge storm and
Yeah.
they were all clean. In the
Okay.
end.
like,
I was working at a reservoir for watershed protection. They had similar to what you were talking about. It's a buoy that goes out in the middle of the lake for the reservoir. It not only takes water samples, but it tracks the weather, the water temperature, and everything else that's going on that.
Right.
That on that, and it was all linked to, I want to say it was Clark University, and the students used that to track the information. So it may be something that we could look into to have one of these universities or colleges use that as part of their program and study the lake, and then we're getting samples and data about the lake without having to spend a lot of money.
I will tell you this.
Hmm.
I think I talked to you about it. I called every college in Worcester. Excuse me?
I was just talking to John
Oh,
about the buoys. It's a great idea if we can link into one of the schools and.
well,
that
I'm
way they
talking
can
about
use-
that. I'm talking about that right now. I called every school. There was a woman who wrote the book about the beavers up at Holy Cross, and she did this big book, and she never got back to me, but there was a guy from WPI, he called me, and I called Clark, and I called every place. I even called the Mass School of Pharmacy because I thought, well, you know what, they're probably doing some kind of engineering and water and all that. But what they said was, they, well, 4 of the people that answered me said the same thing. These kids can't do that because, and we used to do it. I mean, I used to do stuff outside when I was, you know, in school, doing my stuff. I would work for, you know, doing different things, and we thought it was good, but because of just the way things are now with their money and what they do, it would have to be during the summertime, that they would be doing most of the testing and for the lake and stuff. And they just said that all I'm saying to you is what they told me.
So I will reach out to a couple of the contacts that I still have up there and see if they can point us in the right direction.
Right,
Getting one of these, because I never saw the students out there. This was all remote linked, sending the data to them.
right. But what I thought would be good would be having them do stuff as well, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So-
But
It'd be interesting to find out the specifics on the technology being used, and then we can look into it and find out,
Right.
you know, my fear is that that sort of thing comes with, you know, $1,000 a month of annual or maintenance fees, but
the buoys,
yeah.
I don't
because they're
know.
Probably cellular, but it would be.
They are
it'd be interesting to
solar.
Find out
The
what
what,
they
were
are.
yours solar? Yeah.
Well, they gotta have the data though, so now you're
Right.
paying a monthly fee to have a cellular
That's why I
connection,
will say
transmit
the
data,
only thing is they get taken out in the winter.
but yeah,
Yeah,
but we should find out what they used.
right,
That might be the kind of thing that's eligible for community preservation.
right. Because I can call Jacqueline
Yeah.
and talk to her about where, you know, I don't know where they got them or how much they were, but I was all excited about getting the students to do things, you know, I thought that'd be great, but they said that they couldn't do it.
Dan, on a different note, what is going on with the weed program?
So the Conservation Commission, they come out once the Conservation Commission manages that currently. I actually think that's perhaps something that should fall under this group as advisory to then go back to Concom and say, hey, here's the plan. Because I think, you know, my impression is Concom doesn't
Right,
really
we
have
have
time
the
for it.
money for it,
You've got the money for it, but I think
but
there's work that can be
usually
done.
either the Lake Association
Yeah.
or I thought Parks hired the company.
So my involvement was strictly scheduling based to ensure that the treatment did not impact our operations. Concom, the money's in the Concom budget. They're the ones that make the contact with the company and set it up. Honestly, the last 2 years, I've basically done it because there's been nobody at Concom. But I think that should fall into this group and then can go back to present to Concom and say, hey, here's the cost for the treatment plan. You know, we need this permit and then Concom can do their Concom thing. Might make more sense, but they're basically, it's the same thing they've always done. They come out once a year in early June, they treat for weeds. There are lots of options for additional treatments that cost different sums of money. I think he did a
Yes,
presentation at one point.
What have they treated for this year?
I honestly couldn't tell you, whatever the same thing they do every year.
Usually
Milfoil
it's
and,
milfoil
Yeah.
or water.
let me hear,
chestnut
hang on,
or-
I might be able to find it.
And then they come in our next meeting is September 12th. And they're coming out, the company is, and we're gonna try to have all the purple loose stripe taken out of there. Because that's really invasive. And we have enough money in our funding that we were gonna vote on that, but we have somebody coming to the meeting from like the environmental people to explain to us how they would go about getting rid of it all.
And when is that meeting?
That meeting is September 12th, Tuesday, and that's at the
Grandview.
Grandview,
What time, Linda?
7.
So is that something that we could attend as?
Absolutely, he's gonna come out and explain what they would do, and they're gonna try to remedy that, because the purple loose stripe is really starting to fill in around the lake, so they wanna get it before it gets much worse.
Here.
Yeah.
Variable water milfoil and bushy pondweed is what they treated for with the product called Diquat. I do believe that their whole order of conditions needs to be renewed, and we kind of were able to sign something to extend it. So I do think we should plan on getting into over the winter, meeting with them and doing that work. It'll probably have to go back to Concom and have a formal hearing.
Hopefully by then we have
I think-
an agent.
The rumor I hear is that perhaps someone's being interviewed this week,
Yeah,
so.
did hear that today.
That's good.
And if it's the person I spoke with, that I think they'd be a good fit, so we'll see.
I interviewed this week, I look into a point.
Yeah, September 6th, they said they were gonna vote or approve. There's two people that are up for it.
We're
That's,
talking
that's,
conservation
that's,
agent.
for a.
Oh, all right. So that's for the conservation. I'm sorry, I'm.
For somebody to do the paperwork and
Right,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's the biggest problem that we have.
Conservation agent,
It's like
it's like the jack.
secretary, yeah, like Jack, okay.
I think it's more technical than what I can handle.
Oh, okay.
We did have,
We're not
people from
carrying.
Boston, the, environmental people came out. They gave us
Share
like
with
a
you.
workshop on different types of vegetation, and how to identify them. So, I mean, if you're gonna have them come
That
out,
would've
it would be good to have them look and see just what it is we have before, so that we can treat everything that's in there. I'm noticing that even now, the vegetation is coming close to
Oh,
this.
really high right
Yeah,
now.
high.
You can't even swim without touching it.
That helps that.
that's what they do. They do some sort of an audit. They come back, they present what they plan to treat for. But I think Concom basically said, great, sounds good, and rubber stamped it because they didn't have the time to dive into the,
Literally.
like that this group can, I think.
Wetcher's Reservoir obviously is a water supply, and they used to actually have contractors come in and rip all the weeds out. They'd buy a dumpster, they would fill this dumpster with all these, whatever it is, the milfoil and everything else, all the stuff that you can see, and I forget the.
Some of the
depth.
stuff you can't pull, they were telling us, because if you pull it and break it, it just,
Just keeps
so
growing.
that's why they were
Right.
telling us how to like identify them, because so it's, I don't think it's as easy as just.
And what happens with the beaver? Because the beaver eat a lot of that.
Well, I think we only have one left according to the
Oh.
Conservation Committee.
Really?
Well, yeah,
They trapped.
they've trapped
Four
them.
juveniles and one adult.
Yeah, three children and one adult.
Because they do have a value.
Okay.
They do have a huge value. As a matter of fact, I would recommend all of you to get that book, Beaverland, and read about beavers. And it's really what they do and how they do it and what they do for the water. And I mean, people think that, well, they are contaminating the water with their feces, but that's not exactly true. So it's an interesting book. I think would be a good homework.
What's it
It's
called again?
okay, yeah.
What's
it's
it called
okay,
again?
But the
Beaver
beaver
land.
and the trees over
Yeah.
there. Fred's property, it's starting to get like trees like this.
Did find a couple of things online here, these buoys, like,
What?
I did find some of these buoy things online, but I bet we're looking at, I bet this is a $20,000 piece of equipment.
Yeah, I'll check with Jacqueline and see
Yeah,
how much they cost.
they all want you to request a quote, so
Yeah,
that's not a good
the
sign.
buoys.
Movie.
When the website doesn't have any pricing, it just,
Yeah, I got
That's
it
when
in
you
the
know it's
notes, I
expensive.
got it in the notes to reach out to a friend of mine who works for
yeah,
environmental quality for Quabbin Reservoir, and they deal with that stuff, so I will find out. what
Yeah,
You're the
information
perfect
she's-
president. Look at how good this is going. He has all these people. Good.
Tell anybody.
it's on
You might-
the,
might even
it's
be
nice,
able to
though.
Tap into some
Yeah,
grants.
you never know.
yet. Yeah, I think when I saw what they were doing with that, it really says that to me, it goes in different spots. I mean, they put them in different spots and at Quinsigamon.
Yeah.
You know, at that lake, that's what they were doing there. They put them in different spots.
So they had more than one, or they were moving it around?
Oh, no, they had more than one
Right.
because, Quinsigamon is huge. So they were putting them in different spots and then they would, taking the readings or getting the readings. And I'm sure you're right about how the readings get there because it would be kind of silly for somebody to take the canoe out, do any reading on it. So they must be.
So
Wireless.
we have all these testing spots that we can test from, but if we had one of these in the middle of the lake to tell us, like, you would be able to see the correlation with water temperature and the weather, and
Right.
everything
That
else.
would be
but if you're
interesting.
Asking those questions.
Yeah.
Actually, the other thing that would be interesting is the front. Where is it coming from? Where is it going to?
Yeah, that was an issue that was identified in that baseline study they did. I
Yeah.
think one of the challenges of the lake that it doesn't have a lot, it has like limited flow and it has a lot of shallow areas.
Right,
So I
Right,
think
the
that's
shallow
definitely
areas when
important
you heat
to
up and create more
understand, yeah.
weeds.
yeah. Yeah, it's
And-
bottom fed, really.
What is it, after 20 feet, I think, then weeds have a harder time growing because they don't
Yeah,
get the sunlight?
That's,
Right.
I was trying to remember what the number was.
And I
Yeah.
think the deepest part of
isn't
the
that
lake
what
is
they
like
do in-
25 feet,
It,
right?
up
I think the
into,
deepest part of the lake is 25 feet.
Right, so the lake is always gonna have to be maintenance.
don't they in Hopkinton, they drain that down because this is what I was told anyway.
They do that with certain water bodies where they will drain it down to kill off the weeds.
They'll freeze.
That are on that 15 or 20 foot
Right.
slope on the outside edge, but in order to do that with Lake Nipmuc, you're gonna have to drain the whole lake.
Yeah.
This
It
is
would-
not
yeah,
that.
and then you don't even know what's gonna happen once you do that either,
Yes.
because that's a whole other thing.
Someone
Oh,
mentioned
no,
that to
I'm
me.
not recommending we drain. the
No,
lake
no,
there
no, I'm just
again,
saying,
because-
yes, no, I knew you weren't, but I'm just saying.
I think it's in, like, certain ponds are man-made and were designed that way to be reservoirs, to be filled and drained.
Right,
Whereas this is really a natural body of water.
Right.
I'm not sure it would be possible. And if it is, it would probably be in the
correct.
tens or 20 millions of dollars to do that. And like you said, I mean, who knows? Because the water's all got
So
to go
Nipmuc
somewhere.
doesn't have a spillway?
My understanding is you've got one of the brooks that comes in and one that goes out, and
Yeah.
there's some old Army Corps of Engineers thing that was done on, I think, what might be Hawks Land.
Yes, yep,
To, I think, just control, but I don't think
Right.
it's really.
Right, it's like a
actively-
sluice,
Going
right?
out In the cove back by
Yeah.
you, or is it
Going
coming in?
out, yes,
Goes out,
going out
yeah.
to Park Pleasant Street, out in Pleasant.
goes down
comes
Park
at the
Street,
end.
yeah. You know where,
Where's the end?
Wisma's,
Yeah, because that's where the beavers did.
Yes.
Right?
Where's the end?
So if you go on to
In his-
Fred's
Going out the other
property,
side, where's it going
it's in this side of the,
yeah, there's a whole, like a
This side of the
cedar
lake.
swamp out there that
Right.
it comes through and it comes out on Pleasant, you know,
Yeah,
before
I
you
know,
go.
so
but
that's
he
the
said,
out,
where's
I'm
the
asking,
inlet?
where's the in, where's the
Where's the
water,
water getting
where's the
into
water
pond?
coming in from?
I'm trying, it's the other side on,
Over near,
Quirk.
Right,
Isn't there a brook over here or something? So Meadowbrook's the out, and I think it's just natural.
yeah,
Right.
I think it's,
So
it's
spring fed?
from,
yes.
it's, yeah, spring fed from the bottom of the pond, it's-
Oh, yeah, you're right. There's nothing on this side.
There is a little, like a river that comes in over at the very beginning of Kingsley Lane, like a little stream.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right, there is.
yeah, that's
But I don't
a,
know if
But is
that-
it going, is it coming in or is it going out?
that comes in,
I
that's
think that
that's,
comes in,
yeah.
yes.
that's next to the,
Looks like it's
the
kind of
house that, not Jack, but,
Wagner,
um,
yeah, Wagner,
well, it
right?
was, I think it was Pinto and Quirk and, all of them, it comes in right in there.
Oh, that new house, that new
Right,
house on Millville.
49
That
49
really,
Millville
it
Street.
really pissed me off
Said it.
Yeah,
because, I mean, I did the
Go for
wetlands there. And Peter Coffin always says to me, can you come look at this and see what you think? And the septic hole that they had dug was already, the water was
Filling up
up
with
to the
water.
top. And the next thing I know, it's being done. It's somebody's trying to sell it. And it's like a vernal pool that comes down, I mean, it comes into there but it comes across the street from like over, where like between Jane Lowell's and in that area. You know what where I'm talking
Oh.
about? Comes down the,
Doesn't that
comes
go
in-
behind, also behind, Fino's, Matt Fino's house? Comes in behind there where it starts down there where the ballpark is, doesn't it? And then comes all the way through there?
well, that's different. This is coming off of Millville Road. This one is off of Millville Road.
Okay.
Definitely. And it's right there. And all my wetlands flags were there. Right there that I had put in there like a year or two before and we found out, well, nobody could build there. So, we told then you can build there. And next thing I know,
There's a house coming in.
there's a house there. So, but that feeds too from up in the back, you know, this stuff like that.
You know what I just noticed?
Green Mobility comes up behind my house.
Ted, I forgot, Ted King has a weather station.
Yeah,
Oh, he does?
It's got history and everything.
Okay.
So I'll
yes,
Into him.
roll these in.
yeah,
Good.
That's interesting.
Vernal pool
I
back
totally
there as
forgot
well.
this.
yeah, yeah.
All right, so since we're talking about septic systems,
Yes.
the big page here, I've updated whatever pumping records that I have received in. And this is all the addresses surrounding the lake. And I have updated it as recent as Friday of last week. And we probably have about 115 addresses and I got a response rate of 61%.
To get in touch with those people that haven't done it, you know,
What about the people that have no records on file? I've told you about this gentleman that lives next to me, siphoning the water from the lake, doing, I don't know what else over there.
where are we
He
now?
we're at 33 Taft Avenue. It's unknown when the tank was installed and no records on file. Like, those are the kind of people that, how can that be?
What I can tell you, because this was, and maybe Bob maybe has looked into, or you guys know more, apparently it is legal to withdraw water from the lake as long as you don't impact the level. I believe Bill McHenry had researched that.
Yes.
So you
Right.
can actually withdraw water and use it for irrigation or whatever else, as long as you're not impacting the lake as a whole. But it does, you know,
He had a hose
potentially
Up
Well,
into
question
his house
what's going on.
from the thing,
At one time, people
33.
used to pump water out of the lake in order to use for
shower and
their
stuff.
house.
That's what I think he's doing.
Which one,
Which-
which one are we on now?
Who's,
We're on,
33?
33 Taft Avenue.
Oh, Taft Ave, okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Shower with the lake.
Nope.
More power to you.
We did when we were kids.
Yeah.
We didn't know any better, you know?
I don't have any.
Right, so that's what we need to do. I think that's what we need to do. All of these that have no record on
Yeah.
file and,
Go.
you know, I think that we need to have some power, you know, either to go there, knock on the door and say, you know, what's going on here?
Right, so
We sent you a letter.
septic falls under Board of Health.
Correct.
Right.
So do you guys have the authority to go over there and
I'm sure we do, because,
ask me questions about, look, if
Yeah.
this guy's got nothing
Right.
on record about a system?
Yeah.
right,
I'll double check with town council, but I do believe under Title V regulations, the Board of Health does have the authority
right,
to enforce Title V.
right.
I agree. Looking at this list and how many on here you have nothing on file, we need to find out.
Right.
what is the illegal residence all about?
Somebody told me that it was, I can say it was Jane Berthel. That is 19 Kingsley Lane. I believe at one time there was an apartment above it, she said. It was supposed to be garage only, but somebody was living above it.
Oh,
And
yeah,
that's when I
right,
think she said it was a legal residence. Somebody was living there at one point.
right. I took a ride with, she was next door to, on Kinsley Lane. She wanted me to look at the, ice. She lives next door to the Weeks, what's her name? Pauline Palmer. God. I went to school with the Bill. You know, it's crazy. And we, so I know this is not part of the discussion, but the ice house, you know, the ice house, I think it's owned by Wagner's.
Yes.
It's falling apart and, you know, she's concerned about it because and I said, that's probably something that conservation should look in. And she said they did call conservation and the conservation didn't
How long
address it.
ago?
I'm not sure how long ago, but she's been working on it for quite a while. So it's quite a while.
What's the
Sounds pretty good about getting back to people.
Is it
Sounds good.
historic? Is that, is it historic?
It's really, not as old as, because I talked to the historic, I did do that. You know,
Right.
I did all that stuff because what else am I have to do? But I did call the, and they said that it wasn't as old as you'd think it was, and I mean, and it's falling apart.
So it's really a
a
safety hazard.
And it's sore because for people who are living there, it's got now all the trees are growing up around it, so there's no viewing. You can't really see the lake anymore, and
Is
you
it
know,
its own
so
property?
anyway, what?
So which property is this?
I think it's Wagner. I don't think it's on here because it's not a house, or it doesn't have a septic system or anything.
It's the old ice house.
It's the old ice house.
Yes.
Just because that may be something to address potentially with the building commissioner. The danger being that once you get them involved, if there's a problem, it goes on the record and
Right, but she did call the building inspector. I think she told me like 2 years ago, and they said to call the Board of Health.
so I think there are different people, and I think that's somewhere where this group can benefit to take that and bring it to the people and say, you know,
Right.
we'd like you to come to a meeting and talk about, you know,
Right,
why you do or don't have jurisdiction over this.
right. So anyway, we, in the final analysis, I said to her, you know, maybe what you need to do is you need to go around to the lake and get signatures saying, we'd like to have that taken down because it's an eyesore and it's falling down and it's not cared for and blah, blah, blah.
Who owns it?
Wagner, I think it's a Wagner.
Okay, so
Wouldn't
that
that be
would,
a public
we would have
safety?
to start with Wagner, because you can't just go tear down Wagner's property.
No. I mean, right, but they did talk to Wagner. You know, they started there and said, you know, don't you think that it's time to do that? And they had no recourse.
They didn't care.
No.
Get that in writing before
Yeah.
we even touch it.
Joyce,
But I'm not saying that we're gonna take, that
No,
they're gonna take down, but then I think that they have more people involved that would say, then the select board would say, well, now we need to talk to the building inspector, as he said, and get together with the landowner. You know,
Bob, I have a question for you.
but
Wouldn't that be a public safety? That would fall into the building inspector as a public safety.
he's,
If it's falling down and disrepair and.
she talked to him and he said,
I
talk
would-
to us.
There's a new person though.
Okay,
Dylan.
Well, it's John Erickson though.
Oh, so John Erickson wasn't part of that original
My
conversation?
guess is not. I don't know how to say this gently. I think it's worth coming from an official town source on the record saying, we want, you know, an answer. I think sometimes you just get, you know, without facts to back it up.
right.
It wouldn't be the land.
I guess I think it's worth
owner
asking,
who owns
put it that way.
Wouldn't it be their
Ask the building
responsibility to
inspector to
take
do
it down?
an assessment of it.
And they're pricing,
Just say, hey, we're
Yeah.
concerned about
but they're
it.
trying to get
What can we do?
the town to do it?
See what he says, because he's a great, I mean, he's a good resource. I don't want to be negative. He could be helpful. Just trying to research what this property is, but
If I understand it right, I mean, all the conversations we've had with Board of Health in the past about, you know, the lack of reporting these things, I believe, at least we've been told this, that you have the right to go up and knock on the door and ask for the records. And if they don't have them, you can force them to start working
Well, and that's what,
to update the
that's
system.
what Jack said, is he's gonna make sure with legal that we can.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
review it again, but I believe that is true.
I think so.
But let's, you know, things that were back in, back in the day when I was doing things, I mean, you did whatever, you know, you could. And, but now things are a lot different, and so you have to, cross your Ts and dot your Is and make sure that you're doing everything right, otherwise,
You're getting.
like,
But if you're,
going down a steep slope,
you
yeah.
are, because then you're gonna start knocking on people's doors and telling them that they have to do this.
Well, with the septic system, that's a little different. That is a little different
I
because
understand the authority's there, but
the rules are there, though, that when you have a septic system, you need to pump it on a regular basis.
I understand that. My concern.
Maybe
would
not
be
amended.
Sending, say it's yourself, you're going out to deal with John
somebody
Smith.
that's got a gun.
Exactly.
Right,
John Smith needs a septic system
Right.
pumped, and you show up and say, I'm from the Board of Health and I need to see your records saying that your septic system has been pumped within the last, what is that, to be 2 years?
2 years, 3 years.
Yeah. And they say, I'm not giving those to you. Get off my property. Now where are you going?
then you'd go to court.
Now, do you have the right to issue a notice of condemn? Can you can you condemn a building for not giving you those records?
I would think not. I mean, I would think that you have to go through a process.
Right. So I
Through,
think we need to
and,
find out
and, yeah,
what the repercussions
Right.
would be for people that say, no, I'm not giving you records and I don't have
Right.
to show them.
right, but I do believe they do have to.
But they may not.
Somebody.
That
tends
is
to
right.
say no.
That is
That's-
correct.
I'm not,
Right,
I'm
yeah.
looking more of a safety.
You're being there evil.
Trust
yeah.
me when I tell you, that's what I told you about 8
Mhm.
Northbridge Road.
Yes.
That's gonna.
You know, we have that
I
thing
don't
going on
think
right
so.
now. And I would say, you know, I would not go there because
I'm
that,
gonna have Tom Fickner, because he knows James McQuaid, who is the deputy chief of the DEP, who's handling waste sanitation. So I'm sure he would know offhand
right,
what the legal course is.
right.
So I'll get it from the DEP first, then I'll go to town council and say, this is what we plan on doing.
But to have a, like, especially a woman to go.
Yeah, you
I
can't
mean,
go alone.
No,
Yeah,
I
no.
mean,
But
they,
that's the point I was getting. So
exactly,
you're getting at that,
Trust-
that
trust me.
can't happen because it should happen. It's just we need to think about even,
Crazy,
yes. I don't know if I can
crazy people.
going up to people's houses and asking, I don't know who you are.
Right. Right.
It's always good to go in a pair.
Well, the other thing, we had to go with a police officer. We went with a police officer to
That would be
to
better.
this other property. You know,
Mhm.
and that, you know, that would be what I think you'd have to do. But it would be nice if you could just send them another note and
Right.
say,
They could have forgotten about it, got
right,
whatever.
but that's what I was thinking, that we could send
Certified
another
letter
note
written.
and say, you know, we haven't heard from you and this is very important and it has to do with the quality of water in the lake and, you know, this is where you are and this is what you should be thinking of and.
Well, I do want to say, a lot of people who did come in and show me proof that they did pay for their septic pumping, those records did not come in from the septic pumper itself, and they're supposed to
Right.
legally by law, after 14 days of pumping it, send the records to the Board of Health.
Right,
And I have not been receiving those records from the septic pumpers.
right.
But the residents are coming in and show me, I have proof right here. I just had it pumped 3 months ago.
Yeah. I
They
have
show me the
bill.
receipt,
Yeah,
Mhm.
right.
and I contact the pumper. I'm like, you have 14 days.
Yeah,
Where's the record?
Joyce, didn't you say that you could like tell that certain pumpers that they couldn't pump if they didn't report?
As soon as they
Right.
pump your system today,
Right.
in 14 days, I better have your pumping slip.
Maybe we should
Yeah,
suspend the
Joyce said that-
licenses for a little while.
Yeah, that's what Joyce said you
Couple
could do,
weeks
like
or a
they're not,
month,
you're not putting these in.
That's a legal thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
Mhm, it is.
Yeah, but it's something that we can do.
Yes, sir.
These 14 that are questions, could those be septic cesspools?
They could be cesspools.
Right.
'Cause
But you'd
if-
have to, even if they are cesspools, they have to be checked and looked at and seen. In my world, cesspools,
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Because that ties into something I would bring up to this group. So under Title V, if you sell your property to someone with, there's exemptions, Title V. If you sell within your family, you are
Correct.
not required to get a Title V.
right,
And for better or worse, these properties in the lake are very likely to be inherited.
right.
I have wondered if it might be worth putting forward a bylaw that requires all properties within a radius of the lake to have a Title V at sale exceeding the state requirements. And I don't know if that's something we can do.
Yeah, well, your point is
Sounds like
well
very
taken.
Yeah, we could be
It
more,
might be something that'd be worth getting signatures of people around
Because
the
you're
lake.
absolutely right, because a lot of that lake property is just passed on.
we could be more stricter than state law. We can't be
Right.
more lenient.
Right.
So yes, we
Right.
can do that.
You know, but maybe the way to do it is to do a petition, because I think it should come from the, you know, if the people want the lake to, you know, to address the issue, then put their money where their mouth is, so to speak.
Or,
That could be a very
from
unpopular.
the Lake Association, you feel that a lot of the members of the association would be okay with that?
what, to go around and get
So
it?
to make
Oh,
it a requirement that if you were to sell your house,
Mhm,
or you say you pass it on to your daughter,
right,
even,
You
the
need a
law
title.
right now says if you're passing it along to your daughter, it's an
have to
inheritance, you don't
update.
have to have a Title
Right.
V.
yeah.
But what he's saying is,
Well, I
any
think it
property
should
around the
be.
lake, if you're transferring the ownership,
Right.
needs to pass a Title V.
That's
Right,
one thing, but also if people come in and pay cash for a house, they don't have to do Title V.
Correct.
right.
So
But we
again,
can make sure
a
that.
local bylaw, and I don't know if that's a thing that can be done. That's a
Right.
Karis question, but
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Jack is right, that we can make a stronger law, but we can't make a weaker law than the state.
I mean, it might be extreme. You could even go as far as to say, we're gonna require a valid Title V within 10 years on every property on the lake by, 2030 or something. The flip side is that potentially could be very expensive to homeowners, and I don't know if there's ways to get CPA funding. I mean, I think it's around
Oh, there
$500 for a
is.
survey.
Yeah,
When
there
we,
is.
when I bought my house from my father, we had a cesspool. I pumped it once a month because I couldn't stand it. But, came through the town offered a low interest
Yeah.
loan, and we
That's
we
gone
took
now.
that loan and we
Right.
fixed our system.
Yeah, I think that I had asked it before and I never really looked into it.
I
If you
think
could get,
there's still money available for people to go through the town
Right.
and get it at a lower
Right.
interest rate.
Because when I looked into that, though, I looked into see that, remember I talked to
Yes.
you about that? And the interest rate for that was not as good as if you went to like Rockland
oh,
Trust
yes,
or
yeah.
something, you could get a
Yeah.
better, because, or
Right.
the bank with whom you have a mortgage, something you could get a better rate,
maybe that's
which
changed.
was something else. What?
And maybe that's changed now since the market is like flipped as
Exactly.
rates go up.
Well,
It's worth
this was
looking into it again.
this was just this year that,
Okay.
then when I.
Yeah, 'cause
again,
I talked to Gene and Jody about it to find out where this better home
Yeah.
improvement thing was, and they even said it's better for them to go through their personal bank because they're gonna get a better rate.
Right.
I mean, and it's a nightmare to administrate. I do know that. They
Yeah.
did
Right.
A little bit with water.
And I believe Jody said like only 4 people took advantage of it
It's
the
a
last time it was
huge-
available.
Paperwork.
Good thing with that is like you can pay, you don't have to pay it every month. You pay it once, with your taxes. It goes with your taxes when you did that.
Yeah.
That's how we did it, but.
But I had wondered if CPA funds could set up, because you could argue that doing these Title V serves a public benefit, not just the
Right.
private homeowner.
Right,
That perhaps you could get, sign a contract with somebody, go out to bid and say, we're gonna have you do, 50 Title Vs at this rate
right.
and fund it. And I don't know if that's an eligible expense or if other towns have done that,
Right.
but that might take pressure off because you're not going to somebody and saying, hey, you gotta pay up for this
Right.
test.
Well,
You're saying,
in the
just sign on
interim-
there and we'll pay for it.
In the interim, should we just give them another chance because they
We'll
might
give
have
them another
thrown
chance.
the
We'll give them another
let-
reminder.
letter in the trash and, or,
Hey, don't send me one. I'll have mine done. but-
No, anybody that hasn't responded, I got like zeros for people that haven't responded. Anybody with the
Right.
1 has responded, but everybody with the 0, I'll reach back out to.
right,
We have him come, he's like, why do you call? Because we use the enzyme in there. Just slurry.
Yeah.
But you have so you have a room for an actual septic.
I have a septic
Yeah.
because I own a double lot.
Right.
So mine's pumped up onto the top lot.
I mean, I almost think sometimes that's better because
Right.
I think part of the risk is the tight tanks and is a rental property and they have no idea and.
Right.
right,
That's happened
exactly,
before.
exactly,
Yeah.
so, if everybody, if they're all on the same page to start off with, I mean, I tend to be an idealist, which is not always good. I think everybody's gonna want to do this, but, you know,
And it could be a financial hardship too, that they couldn't really
but,
afford.
Correct.
but you know what? The thing of it is that what they're doing, they may well be contaminating the
That's what
lake,
we
and that makes
say.
it a
That's
huge,
why we're here.
a whole community hardship then. So you give them another chance, I would say. I mean, again, Pollyanna, my husband always says, okay, Pollyanna, now what?
Maybe a little bit stronger.
Have them just say,
Well, that's a request.
right, yeah,
Chill once and.
Yeah.
yeah, please, you know, show us your stuff and then if we don't hear from that, then we may have to
Knock on the door.
knock on the door with,
I have no problem going with a member of the Board of Health.
Yeah.
Just to be a second person.
yeah, because it is scary when you're dealing with certain.
It might be worth too, like through the association to look, if there's somebody that's like an active member to just reach out and just say, hey, did you?
Yeah,
get that?
that's what I would, that was what I thought would be a good thing to do too. So like with three of us went, you know, the guy with the strength, the lake. And the Board of Health babe,
Well, like
know?
I see Grandview is on this list.
yeah,
So there you go. That's, and I think they're trying to be a really good partner. So it's worth just reaching out and just saying, hey,
yeah,
Yeah, we'll be going there next.
I'm sure they're getting pumped and all that or doing
Well, I'm
whatever.
sure. Again, who's pumping them
Yeah.
and why am I not getting the records?
right.
So,
But that's not Grandview's fault. That's.
No, it's not Grandview's fault.
Right.
well, they own the property, don't they?
They
Yeah.
own the property, but it's not their fault that we're not getting the pumping.
Oh,
records
right,
for
right,
the septic
exactly.
column.
But we have no,
Yeah,
I mean, we have no
that's-
records,
Right.
just no pumping
I
records.
didn't,
Got
I
it.
wasn't even aware of that. That
Do a septic.
get your septic pumped and the guy that pumps it is supposed to let you know.
Correct.
Right,
I didn't know that
sure
till
know.
Joyce said it. They know.
Jack,
Right.
is that only for the lake or is that?
Any.
And-
that's yours.
Even grease traps in restaurants, you
Your
have to have a
septic,
pumping record.
your
for grease
septic,
traps.
your septic.
14 days.
Yeah,
But it wasn't until 1995 where records of septic plans and stuff like that did not have to hit the Board of Health office. Only in 1995 was it made law that anything done with septic systems had to come to the Board of Health office for record keeping. So anything prior to 1995, some files I have, some files I don't.
No, question for the Lake Association. Have you made any headway on that newsletter that you were thinking about?
We're gonna meet, we're supposed to bring our information and our stories to the next meeting so we can have it printed up and we're gonna send it out. So
We could even include something in that. Is that,
Yes,
is that what
sure.
you're heading?
yeah,
Wouldn't be a bad idea,
Yeah.
just as, a friendly reminder,
Oh, okay,
the Board of
sure.
Health is looking for, a way to,
Right.
recognize your compliance to your septic plan.
I think that sounds a good idea.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay, I'm writing that down for the next meeting.
Thank you.
We also, just to change focus, we're talking about the newsletter. We're also going to include in there, and this, I think, comes under the task force, that there are, I don't want to say many, but there are quite a few people out on the lake who are abusing the privilege with the speed and the vehicles that they're using. So we're going to ask people to be a little bit more
Consider it.
conscientious about it. I mean, Grandview has come to me a couple times, when they're having weddings out there. Do the people have the right to go by with their ski jets blasting? Yes, they do. But we're gonna ask people to be just a little bit more courteous.
Correct.
Doesn't the lake have a speed limit?
Yes, that's what we're working on next. I got all the records that I got and now we're gonna incorporate that in our newsletter. That's this week's project, that the rules of the lake, I'm gonna make a little diagram of the lake itself. Try to put some of the rocks, in the shallow parts, because people that are buying houses on the lake right now are going out there with jet skis.
And they're clogging them up and then they're
Not
walking
only
them back.
clogging them up, they're
Oh, yeah.
hitting rocks. That's dangerous.
Yeah.
Here's a question. Would it make sense to get a floating speed limit sign and put it in the lake somewhere? So that it's a blatant reminder
I
that,
don't think
Okay,
it'll.
So
Who's gonna?
No way to
it's,
enforce it.
it's a little,
They're gonna look at the sign and go, yeah, I'm doing 10 over the speed limit, but who's gonna do something about it?
So-
So my next
Yeah.
suggestion was gonna say to you guys, because the majority of the people on the lake
Lakers.
they're Lakers, they
Yeah.
live there. Don't know if you want to go this route. Environmental police would be more than happy, I'm sure, to come out there and spend a Saturday or a Sunday. If they
Right.
all have their own watercrafts, to come out there and start enforcing the speed limit,
Not
the
like
drinking,
years
whatever
ago.
it is,
It's
just.
certain groups of people, not much, but yeah, like,
It's worth noting, so because I looked into this a little bit, Lake Nipmuc is a great pond.
right,
So in order
correct.
to establish any sort of rules about motorized usage or speed limits, you gotta go all the way through the state. It's gotta come all the way be signed off by the head of the environmental police or whatever agency. So anything, so some of those rules, I know some stuff is in our bylaws, and certainly anything, we do it to be a little careful, understanding what can and can be currently enforced and what we even have the power to enforce, but like the drinking and all that stuff certainly is state law, but.
But I think if we just approach it from
From a neighbor to
polite-
neighbor.
a neighbor to neighbor,
Be
be,
respectful.
be
Yeah.
respectful.
How hard is that?
Right, yeah.
The guy was doing like crazy and then he hit a rock and popped off and everybody at the wedding was clapping. How ridiculous. And then the ambulance was waiting for him across the lake when he went back.
Yeah.
So-
That's the thing, to make sure people understand, like,
Yes.
God forbid something happens, there's not like a
Right,
police boat ready to go, like,
Yeah,
they gotta
yeah.
fill up, they gotta put the boat in the water, by the
Yeah.
time they get to you, you're gonna
So
be in bad
just-
shape.
for them to be aware for their own safety. I mean, how many people drowned in that lake since we've been born? And how many people have gotten hurt on the rocks, water skiing or a jet ski because they don't know the lake or they get too close to.
That might be something too.
We did put new
Right.
buoys out all along the
Buoys.
rocks.
Mark.
Yeah, we put new buoys out this year and we're gonna do more. That'll be,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw them, they looked good.
I mean, that might even be something if there was a cost, I'm just thinking that's the kind of thing that you could go back to the town and make an argument, like, hey, we need $1,000.
right,
This is gonna save you future public safety money.
right. And the thing of it is like, we need to make people aware. We don't want to police them. We need to make them be aware of the consequence or just be respectful. That's all.
So what, somebody,
Well, and
somebody hits a rock and ruptures their fuel tank and now it's a department.
Got the
of
oil.
Environment
Oh, yeah.
Protection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that whole thing goes with everything, even the septic systems, I mean, you're contaminating this part of the water and it's gonna
Right.
change the whole thing. And there are all kinds of things too that like I like to do something with how to take care of your septic system. I use Ridex. And
I
I
use it
recommend
anytime.
Ridex to everybody to put into their septic system you put it in the toilet and flush it.
Yeah.
And you read the things and what it does is it creates an active enzymes in the tank. And then when it goes, yes, and then it goes down into the system, it's not like filthy,
Yeah.
it's not cloggy, it's so much better. And, I tell everybody that and people say to me, Ridex, I never heard of Ridex, but
Putting in my new septic system tomorrow.
good boy. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things and if we work on that level, trying to say that if you do this and you do that and you have it pumped, every 2 years or every 3 years, I mean,
And even if
Education is a
you-
stronger tool than enforcement.
right. And when, when I had everybody living at my house, I had everybody in the Western world was living there, I would have to have it pumped like every other year.
Right,
And then, now that there's just the two of us, please God,
yeah,
we can wait 3 years because, doesn't take as, as much. I'd have them in there and they'd be in the shower for like 20 minutes and I finally had to knock on the door and say, get out of the shower. Did you fall asleep in there? Do you want me to come in and help you? And they'd be like, okay.
that's how. it
I
was.
mean, all you need is a 10-minute shower. Let's
I've never
face it. Yeah.
Rub your body and get out.
Yeah, it's like, it would make me crazy, but they learned after a while because they didn't want me coming into the shower with them.
But I do think on the septic systems, I mean, like mine failed, I bought it from my parents. It failed, I replaced it.
Right,
All right, so it cost me $23,000.
right,
Am I angry at people that aren't replacing them? Yeah, I am. I
Right.
mean, if I'm doing my part to keep the lake clean, I
right.
expect everyone to do the same thing.
Right.
I know that's probably a little bit
Well, idealistic, Pollyanna-ish, yeah,
Hmm.
I get it,
Hmm.
but it's it's the rules. You know, I mean, these things are simple. It's the rule. And, you know, whatever you're doing, it's the rule.
What people
It's
don't
pretty easy.
understand is it may be $23,000 when you put it in. It's gonna be $30,000 if you
You
wait.
have to repair it
And it's gonna
again.
be $40,000.
Yeah.
So
Right.
the
Mine
faster
was
you
like
do it,
30 when I put it
honestly,
in.
you save money.
Right. Yeah, and
Right.
if you go to sell it, I mean, it's gotta increase the value of your home, but if you're not gonna be able to sell the property if it fails.
Right,
Actually, I do have one property on North Avenue right now that's trying to sell it.
right,
It's in failure right now.
yep,
Like, you can't sell without a Title V.
right.
But could they realistically, if they included it in the
Sale of the house.
sale of the
It's
house?
in the sale of the house, yes, but the owner has to know that they're gonna be
Yeah,
responsible
yeah,
for
right.
it.
be
And
liable
they have
for
to do,
that?
do a new system if they're getting 23,000 off the house,
Right,
cost of the house. I mean,
right.
that has to be a deal that they
Yes,
make.
yeah.
But they are required, I mean, once the new
Yeah.
owner
Oh,
is
yeah.
in there,
Yeah,
they have to have it
absolutely.
done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Once the
Yeah.
Board of Health finds out, the clock ticks for 2 years. They have 2 years to get that septic system in working order.
The issue goes back to like Dan was saying is you give your house to your daughter.
Oh, I'm not giving it to my daughter. She.
No,
can
but
No,
but right now-
I'm using it as an example. You
Right.
give it to your daughter
have More
and
money than God.
she doesn't have to
Yeah.
get the Title V taken.
Right.
It's an
Well, it
inheritance.
was like
If we
my
could do a
father,
bylaw.
when he
I
gave
think we
it,
should do a
you know,
bylaw.
Right,
Sure.
yeah.
That makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, I agree. We can
Yeah.
talk to the.
Yeah, find out if it needs to be a
Yeah,
bylaw, or
other
if it
way
can be a
too.
Board of Health policy.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, we can make a regulation of our own.
Right, yeah,
that would be good because I want my great grandchildren to swim in that lake. My kids are in that lake every day. They're there with me. They're in that water and my cove is like probably the dirtiest one on the lake.
but that's to me what I say when I talk to people about it. It's, this is your resource. This is what you're gonna sell your house for 10 times more than your mother gave it to you for. And in the future, it's gonna be because the lake is pristine.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's one of those things, but I mean, I rode with Pauline around, I took her for a ride.
Yeah.
or- So that she could tell me all the different things. There are so many brand new houses there. Now, did they all get new septic systems?
We hope.
I mean, I don't know. It's not, it doesn't, I don't know. Because is anybody watching way over there in
Well,
the?
this is what I say about policing. This could be a full-time job on the lake. Right?
Yeah, where do you see it? I mean, the houses are absolutely magnificent. They're beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Mhm.
And like that Pinto house that he's got people, who's living in the little, house that's on,
Shanty.
yeah, in the pond
Nobody
there.
lives in that.
But something's in there.
Yeah, it's a party house.
It may be where they sleep over or something. I don't know, but I mean, that house has all been done that second floor, I think it's been added on to all these houses and I was astounded,
Mm.
you know, because like when I worked for Shea Engineering in the winter, I would put my skates on when the ice was on and I'd go to the Grady's house. They live right next door to the office and because if I went out on the ice, the guys would say, oh, where is she? I don't know where she is. But the Grady's they would keep my shoes warm and they'd keep an eye on me if I didn't come back in an hour. And I would skate all over the pond and do all that stuff. And they come back and they'd have hot chocolate for me and I'd put my shoes on and go back in the house. It was like, you know, wonderful. But now even I don't even see the ice on the lake anymore.
No, there is no.
2 years ago.
2 years ago, we had ice skating
Years
for
ago,
3
we were-
weeks.
It was great.
Have
It was
a,
fun.
Derby.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, but it's so, I mean, I love that, you know.
Have you,
And
have you noticed any more birds on the lake this year than past years?
geese,
What's that?
Geese, any more geese on
The
this year?
same,
About the
About the
same.
same?
about 50-ish. Right?
I mean, I know that's a hot button topic. That may be something this group wants to look into.
Right.
And I know it was discussed years ago, potentially some population control, because I'm sure that's not helping.
We tried it, but we couldn't.
Shirley, I think, was involved.
Yeah,
That's how long that
yes.
was.
Yes, it was a long time ago before the Board of Health.
How was the population control done?
So what you have to do is you either oil or
You
add
oil
only
them,
eggs.
but by the
Eggs.
time.
Because
but
you take the
then-
eggs away, they just have
Yeah.
more eggs.
Right,
But
but it
it's,
didn't work.
if it would be a very ugly discussion. There are a lot of
Right.
people, I think, who are very against
Yeah.
it. And I don't want to, I get it, but
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of,
Are they
it's
still
a,
around?
it's a slippery slope with a lot of people on
They
the
don't
lake.
come up on us, 'cause we put
And
like
one
a
of the-
barrier. They don't want to jump over it.
Right,
one of the testing things I'm trying to find out, actually, the company that's doing the water study in Mendon gave me some info. There is some testing, DNA testing they can do on the E. coli to figure out where it's from. He sent over some info.
yeah.
It's like
That would be
people
great
or
to-
animals or.
I'm curious to see
It's expensive.
if we look at these other sites, we test them all at the same time to see,
Mm.
like, is it the beach or is it the whole lake is gonna
Yeah.
be
Right.
high?
Dan, question.
No,
I just saw
it
something on
always
the
seems
news
just
that
each
they're
night.
doing studies with wastewater treatment. And they can find out like opioids, whether they were
Oh, yeah.
ingested
Yeah.
or dumped in the toilet.
COVID.
Now, wouldn't that work the same for E. coli?
That's what I think this is. It's like
Right, well,
they
that's
do a
what they- how
genetic
they're doing
analysis to
COVID.
figure out
They
what it's
find
from.
COVID
Is it
testing.
animal? Is it, yeah.
So would that be something that you could do through a wastewater treatment company?
Well, it's just finding the company that does the test, and a lot of them you have to you take the sample and overnight it to some lab and wherever. And it's, a $500 sample, but I forget Scott sent me the info because they just did it somewhere in Mass for another contract they're working on
Okay.
to try
That would
and,
be good to know.
yeah. They were gonna do some sort of a nitrogen isotope test as part of that study, which is the same thing. It determines the source of the nitrogen, and they actually couldn't find a big enough sample to test,
Hmm.
which I guess is a good thing.
Yeah, that is a good thing, yeah.
But
And what would they be looking for at that point, whether it was fertilizer or effluent?
yeah, I don't know. I'm not an expert. I think it's a similar idea that the nitrogen can come from different things, from fertilizer, from septic, from animals, just nature.
Mhm.
Well, that's how they know that the COVID.
Right, yeah, same thing. It
Because
was-
they test the water.
The amount of
Right,
COVID in wastewater
treatment, they're
Yeah.
finding it in the
Yeah,
water.
doesn't surprise me. They can do other stuff. too.
interesting, when you think about it. How things can
The
get done,
interesting is they can source it,
right,
find out where it's coming from.
right,
Because you think about wastewater treatment, it comes from everywhere
Right.
to one location.
yeah. Yeah. So do we make a motion that we send out another notice to these people? Is that something that we do, or do we have to do that? Make a motion? Can I?
Or is that's a Board of Health is sending out the letters, so we need a motion to do that.
Well, basically, making a motion just means like, yeah, we want the
We
Board of
agree.
Health to be in charge of it.
Right,
Basically, the
Right.
Board of Health.
This group is making
Take it under advisement.
recommendations.
right. So
It's a recommendation, correct?
can I make a motion that we send out another letter to the failure people?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Jack, do you need a motion for policy?
For policy?
Yeah, you said that you might want to look into policy for, you no longer will have by right, Title V, Passover. Do you need a motion for that?
Yeah, you can put that motion in. Do you want to make that motion?
So I make a motion that, the board recommend to the Board of Health, to change the policy of transfer of ownership, not needing Title V requirement.
Second,
second,
all in favor?
Aye.
because that gives us a little more control,
Mhm.
you know?
Anything else?
Can I just ask some housekeeping items? So if there's an email that went out, people getting their email, so like yours is this at Yahoo, I won't read it, but, and then you have a Verizon address.
Mhm.
It probably would not be a bad idea to set up a formal town account for this board, so
Correct.
that correspondence is logged. I don't know if that's, are you able to, like, if we get you info,
I should already have one because of the,
or you on?
Council on Aging, but I never got it.
I looked.
Oh, you looked in it.
Directory. when
Yeah.
I was-
Well, I'm gonna
Guys, and it
send
wasn't
some,
there.
I'll,
Okay.
we'll.
Cause I had to come,
People
had to
get
take
their
the
stuff
test, get
together.
the sworn in, all that, so it should be something.
Just because, yeah, because then we can set up a group. It'll be much
I know,
easier to
huh?
communicate. And
Yeah.
Joyce, you get your town email now?
Yep.
And then we should probably talk about meeting dates too, but,
I think
Yeah,
we were
I saw
looking
that.
at, September 19th is the next meeting.
Yep.
Correct.
Right, aren't they all posted right here?
Yeah.
It's gonna be the third Tuesday of the month, as long as that.
So
works for everyone.
7 o'clock here?
And anybody can come, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd
Bring
love.
the whole
we-
lake
We'd
association.
love,
Yeah.
yeah, I was just gonna say, we're on the same train, right? So I like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So move.
Thank you.
Done.
So bring your money to the
Yeah.
next meeting.
you stop
I'll
the
bring
thing?
in the Lake